In a quiet little town in Iowa, surrounded by acres of golden cornfields and rolling pastures, lived a girl named Emily Carter. She was the daughter of John Carter, a farmer who worked tirelessly from sunrise to sunset to provide for his family. Life on the farm wasn't easy, but it had taught Emily the value of hard work, patience, and determination. From planting seeds in spring to harvesting crops in autumn, she had grown up learning that success came only through effort and perseverance. Emily was different from most kids her age. While others spent their weekends playing video games or hanging out at the mall, she preferred reading books borrowed from the small library in town. Her favorite subjects were math and science, and she dreamed of becoming an engineer one day. But there was something standing between her and her dream, a prestigious private school called Lincoln Academy. Lincoln Academy was known across the state as one of the best schools for students who wanted to pursue careers in science and technology. Its graduates went on to attend top universities and secure jobs at major companies. For Emily, getting into Lincoln Academy meant more than just receiving a good education. It meant proving to herself and to everyone else that where you came from didn't define what you could achieve. For months, Emily poured her heart into preparing her application. She studied late into the night after finishing her chores on the farm, practiced answering interview questions with her father, and wrote draft after draft of her personal essay. The essay told the story of how growing up on a farm had shaped her character and fueled her ambition. It spoke about the challenges she faced, like helping her dad fix broken machinery when funds were tight, or waking up before dawn to milk cows during harvest season. Most importantly, it highlighted her passion for engineering and her desire to use her skills to make life better for people in rural communities. When the application deadline arrived, Emily handed over her completed forms with trembling hands. She knew how competitive the admissions process was, and she couldn't help but feel nervous. Still, she reminded herself that she had done everything she could. All she could do now was wait. Weeks passed, and Emily tried to keep busy by focusing on her studies and helping out on the farm. But deep down, she couldn't stop thinking about whether she'd get accepted. Every time the mailman drove by, she ran to the mailbox, hoping to see an envelope from Lincoln Academy. Finally, one crisp afternoon in early spring, the letter arrived. Her hands shook as she tore open the envelope. At first glance, the words seemed blurry, almost unreadable. Then they came into focus. "We regret to inform you." Emily's heart sank. She read the rest of the letter slowly, trying to understand why she hadn't been accepted. According to the note, the admissions committee felt that she lacked certain qualities needed to thrive in such a competitive environment. They mentioned vague terms like cultural fit and community alignment. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she crumpled the paper in frustration. How could they say she wasn't a good fit? She had worked so hard, given everything she had, and still it wasn't enough. The rejection stung not just because of what it meant for her future, but also because it felt personal, as if they were saying someone like her didn't belong in a place like Lincoln Academy. That evening, Emily sat alone in her room, staring out the window at the fields stretching endlessly under the fading light. Her father knocked softly and entered, carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate. He set one down beside her and sat on the edge of the bed. "I saw the letter," he said gently. "You okay?" Emily shrugged, wiping away tears. "I don't get it. Dad, I did everything right. Why wasn't it enough?" John sighed, his weathered face lined with both wisdom and sadness. "Sometimes, kiddo, people make decisions based on things that have nothing to do with how smart or talented you are. Don't let this break your spirit. You've got grit, something those fancy folks might not even understand." Though her father's words brought some comfort, Emily couldn't shake the feeling of unfairness. She had always believed that hard work and dedication would open doors for her. Now, for the first time, she wondered if that belief was naive. Was it possible that no matter how much she achieved, some doors would remain closed simply because of where she came from? Little did Emily know, her story was far from over. Unbeknownst to her, news of her rejection had reached someone unexpected, someone who wouldn't take the decision lying down. And soon, The peaceful little town of Iowa would find itself at the center of a whirlwind unlike anything it had ever seen. The next morning dawned bright and clear, with the sun casting long shadows across the fields. As Emily helped her father load bales of hay onto the trailer, she noticed a strange noise coming from the distance. At first it sounded like the hum of a tractor, but as it grew louder, she realized it was something else entirely. Looking up, she squinted against the sunlight and gasped. A sleek, gleaming private jet was descending toward the nearby football field of Lincoln Academy. People gathered around, pointing and chatting excitedly. No one could explain why a luxury aircraft would land in such an ordinary place, or what it might mean for the school, for Emily, and for the future of education itself. What Emily didn't realize yet was that this moment marked the beginning of a chain reaction, one that would challenge prejudices, redefine opportunities, and prove that sometimes the smallest voices can spark the biggest changes. The sight of the private jet landing on the football field sent shockwaves through Lincoln Academy. Students rushed to the windows, teachers paused mid-lesson, and even the principal, Roger Bennett, stepped out of his office to see what was happening. The sleek aircraft came to a halt near the center of the field, its engines whirring softly as they powered down. Everyone watched in awe, wondering who could possibly be visiting their small school. After a few moments, the door of the jet opened, and a set of stairs unfolded smoothly to the ground. A tall man in an expensive suit emerged, followed by a woman carrying a leather briefcase. The man looked around with sharp, confident eyes, taking in the scene before him. His name was Richard Hayes, though no one at Lincoln Academy knew that yet. He walked with authority, his polished shoes crunching lightly against the grass as he made his way toward the school building. Principal Bennett quickly straightened his tie and approached the visitors. "Good morning," he said, trying to sound calm despite the chaos swirling around him. "Can I help you?" The man extended his hand. "Good morning. I'm Richard Hayes. This is my assistant, Laura Bennett." He gestured to the woman beside him. "I'd like to speak with you about an urgent matter regarding your admissions process." Principal Bennett blinked, caught off guard. "Admissions? Of course, Mr. Hayes. Please come inside." He led them into the school, leaving behind a crowd of curious students and faculty members whispering among themselves. Once they were seated in the principal's office, Richard got straight to the point. "I understand that you recently rejected an applicant named Emily Carter," he began. His tone was polite but firm, commanding attention without raising his voice. Principal Bennett shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Yes, that's correct. We receive many applications each year, and unfortunately we can't accept everyone. It's nothing personal." Richard leaned forward slightly, his expression unwavering. "Nothing personal? Let me explain why this particular rejection has caught my interest. Emily Carter is the granddaughter of Margaret Hayes, a woman who saved my life many years ago. Without her quick thinking and kindness, I wouldn't be here today." The principal's eyes widened in surprise. I wasn't aware of that connection." "That's understandable," Richard replied. "Margaret never mentioned it to her family, and I've kept it private out of respect for her wishes. However, when I learned about Emily's rejection and the reasons given, I felt compelled to step in." Laura opened the briefcase and handed over a folder containing documents. "Here's some background information on Emily's achievements," she said. "As you'll see, she's an exceptional student with a strong academic record, leadership skills, and a clear passion for engineering." Principal Bennett flipped through the pages, his brow furrowing. The evidence was undeniable. Emily was exactly the kind of student Lincoln Academy claimed to value. Still, he hesitated. "While all of this is impressive, we must consider more than just grades and extracurriculars. Our goal is to create a cohesive community where students thrive academically and socially." "And what does socially mean in this context?" Richard asked, his voice steady but laced with challenge. "Does it mean prioritizing applicants from certain backgrounds while excluding others? Does it mean rejecting someone simply because they come from a rural area?" The principal stiffened, feeling cornered. "That's not what I'm saying. We have standards." "Standards based on what?" Richard interrupted. Privilege? Wealth? Connections? Because if that's the case, then perhaps it's time to rethink those standards. For a moment, there was silence in the room. Principal Bennett stared at the papers in front of him, unsure how to respond. He had always believed that Lincoln Academy should cater to students who fit its culture, a culture he associated with affluence and sophistication. But now, faced with Richard's pointed questions, he began to doubt whether his beliefs aligned with the true purpose of education. Finally, Richard broke the silence. Mr. Bennett, I'm not here to criticize or shame you. I'm here because I believe in second chances, for individuals and institutions alike. I want to propose something that will benefit both Emily and Lincoln Academy. What do you have in mind? The principal asked cautiously. I'd like to fund a scholarship program specifically designed to support students from underrepresented backgrounds, Richard explained. These scholarships would cover tuition, books, and other expenses, ensuring that talented individuals like Emily have equal opportunities to succeed. In return, I expect the school to commit to revising its admissions process to eliminate bias and focus solely on merit. Principal Bennett frowned, weighing the implications. Accepting Richard's offer meant admitting fault and making significant changes to the way Lincoln Academy operated. On the other hand, refusing could damage the school's reputation, especially if word got out about the rejection and Richard's involvement. Before he could respond, Richard added, "There's one more thing. I'd like to host a public debate here at the school. It will give students, faculty, and parents a chance to discuss the importance of diversity and inclusion in education. Transparency is key, and I think it's time for Lincoln Academy to lead by example." The idea of a public debate made Principal Bennett uneasy. He imagined the scrutiny, the criticism, the pressure to defend decisions he had always considered justified. Yet deep down he knew Richard was right. The world was changing, and clinging to outdated ideals wouldn't serve anyone in the long run. "Very well," he said reluctantly. "We'll consider your proposal and make the necessary arrangements for the debate." Richard nodded, satisfied. "Thank you. I trust you'll do the right thing, for Emily, for the school, and for future generations of students." With that, the meeting ended. As Richard and Laura left the office, whispers spread throughout the school like wildfire. Students gathered, in hallways and classrooms, speculating about the mysterious visitor and his connection to Emily Carter. Some admired his boldness, while others wondered if change was truly possible in a place like Lincoln Academy. Meanwhile, Emily remained unaware of the events unfolding around her. She spent the day helping her father on the farm, her thoughts still heavy with disappointment over the rejection. When she returned home that evening, exhausted from a long day of work, she found her phone buzzing with messages from friends. "Did you hear about the guy who landed a private jet at school?" One message read. "Someone said he's fighting. For you," another exclaimed. Confused, Emily called her best friend Sarah to ask what was going on. By the time Sarah finished explaining, Emily's heart was racing. Could it really be true? Was someone actually standing up for her? That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Emily allowed herself a flicker of hope. Maybe this wasn't the end of her dream after all. Maybe, just maybe, the impossible was about to become possible. Unbeknownst to her, the arrival of Richard Hayes marked the beginning of a transformation, not just for Lincoln Academy, but for the entire community. The coming days would test the strength of old traditions and bring new voices to the forefront, proving that sometimes change starts with a single act of courage. The days following Richard Hayes' visit were filled with tension and anticipation at Lincoln Academy. News of the proposed scholarship program and the upcoming public debate spread quickly, sparking heated discussions among students, teachers, and parents. Some were excited about the possibility of change, while others clung to the old ways, fearing that opening the doors wider would dilute the school's prestigious reputation. Principal Roger Bennett found himself caught in the middle of it all. He spent hours locked in his office, poring over documents and meeting with the school board to decide how to proceed. The pressure was mounting, not just from Richard Hayes, but also from within the community. Parents who had paid hefty tuition Fees for their children to attend Lincoln Academy demanded answers. Why should we support scholarships for students who don't meet our standards? One parent asked during a tense phone call. Others argued that the school needed to adapt to stay relevant in a changing world. Meanwhile, Emily Carter remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around her. She continued helping her father on the farm, focusing on chores like feeding the animals and repairing fences. Her friends tried to keep her updated, sending texts and calling whenever they heard new details. But Emily didn't fully grasp the magnitude of what was happening. All she knew was that someone, a wealthy stranger, was fighting for her right to attend Lincoln Academy. It felt surreal, almost like a scene from a movie. Back at the school, preparations for the public debate were underway. Flyers were posted around campus announcing the event, and invitations were sent to parents, alumni, and local media outlets. The topic of discussion was clear. Should Lincoln Academy prioritize inclusivity and diversity, or should it maintain its traditional focus on exclusivity and prestige? The debate promised to be a turning point for the institution, and everyone wanted to have a say. On the day of the debate, the auditorium buzzed with energy. Students filed in early, eager to secure good seats. Teachers took their places near the front, while parents and members of the community filled the rows behind them. Reporters set up cameras and microphones, ready to capture every moment. The air was thick with excitement and anxiety. When Principal Bennett stepped onto the stage, the room fell silent. He looked nervous, clutching a stack of notes as he adjusted the microphone. "Good afternoon, everyone," he began. "Today we gathered to discuss an important issue facing our school, the future of our admissions process. We are honored to welcome Mr. Richard Hayes, who has generously offered to fund a scholarship program aimed at supporting underrepresented students." Applause rippled through the crowd as Richard walked onto the stage. Dressed in a tailored suit, he exuded confidence and authority. He nodded politely to Principal Bennett before addressing the audience. "Thank you for having me here today," he said, his voice calm but powerful. "I believe that education is one of the greatest tools we have to create a better world. Yet too often, talented individuals are denied opportunities simply because of where they come from or what they lack in resources. That's why I'm proposing this scholarship program, not as charity, but as an investment in the potential of every student." His words resonated deeply with many in the audience, especially the students. For years, they had witnessed the invisible barriers that kept certain groups out of Lincoln Academy. Now, someone was shining a light on those barriers and challenging them head-on. Principal Bennett responded next, attempting to defend the school's current policies. "Lincoln Academy has always prided itself on maintaining high standards," he said. "Our goal is to provide an environment where students can excel academically and socially. To achieve that, we must consider factors beyond grades and test scores, including cultural alignment and community values." His argument drew mixed reactions. Some nodded in agreement, while others rolled their eyes or whispered criticisms to their neighbors. One student raised her hand and stood up, addressing the principal directly. "But isn't cultural alignment just code for keeping things the way they've always been?" she asked boldly. "If we're so focused on tradition, how will we ever grow?" The question hung in the air, forcing Principal Bennett to pause. He struggled to find a satisfying answer, aware that his usual explanations sounded hollow in this context. Sensing the growing unease, Richard seized the moment. "Education isn't about preserving the status quo," he said firmly. "It's about breaking down walls and creating pathways for the next generation of leaders. Talent exists everywhere, in cities, in small towns, and yes, even on farms. Our job is to nurture it, not suppress it." As the debate continued, more voices joined the conversation. A teacher spoke about the importance of diverse perspectives in the classroom, arguing that students learned best when exposed to different ideas and experiences. A parent expressed concern about fairness, wondering if scholarships might disadvantage students who had worked hard to pay their own way. Each perspective added depth to the discussion, highlighting the complexity of the issue. Then came Emily's turn. Earlier that morning, Sarah had convinced her to attend the debate, assuring her that her story mattered. Nervous but determined, Emily made her way to the stage when called upon. Holding the microphone tightly, she took a deep breath and began to speak. "My name is Emily Carter," she said, her voice steady despite the knot of nerves in her stomach. "I grew up on a farm, where I learned the value of hard work and perseverance. Every day I wake up knowing that success doesn't come easy. It takes effort, patience, and a willingness to keep going even when things get tough. When I applied to Lincoln Academy, I did so because I believed in its mission to prepare students for the future. But instead of seeing my potential, the school saw my background and decided I wasn't a good fit." Her words struck a chord with the audience, many of whom nodded sympathetically. Emily paused, gathering her thoughts before continuing. "I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for a fair chance to prove that I belong here, just like anyone else. And I know there are others like me, talented students who are being overlooked because of where they come from. That's why I support Mr. Hayes's proposal. It's not just about me. It's about giving everyone the opportunity to succeed." When Emily finished speaking, the room erupted in applause. Even some of the skeptics found themselves moved by her sincerity and determination. For the first time, many people in the audience truly understood the stakes of the debate, not just for Emily, but for countless others who had been shut out of opportunities they deserved. Principal Bennett listened quietly, his expression unreadable. He realized that no matter what decision he made, the school's image, and his own legacy, would be forever changed. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders, but he also recognized that this was a moment to lead, not retreat. As the debate drew to a close, Richard summarized his position one final time. "Change is never easy," he said, "but it's necessary if we want to build a brighter future. I urge you all to think carefully about the kind of institution you want Lincoln Academy to be. Will it be a place that lifts people up, or one that holds them back?" With those words, the event concluded, leaving the audience to reflect on what they had heard. Outside the auditorium, conversations continued late into the evening, as students, teachers, and parents debated the merits of Richard's proposal. Some remained unconvinced, clinging to the belief that tradition should outweigh progress. But many others felt inspired, ready to embrace a new vision for the school. For Emily, the day marked a turning point. As she walked home under the starlit sky, she couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. For so long she had doubted whether her dreams were within reach. Now, thanks to Richard's intervention and her own courage to speak up, she dared to imagine a different outcome, one where talent and determination triumphed over prejudice and privilege. Little did she know, the real battle was just beginning. The decisions made in the coming days would shape not only her future but the future of Lincoln Academy and everyone connected to it. Change was in the air and nothing would ever be the same again. The days after the debate felt like a whirlwind for everyone at Lincoln Academy. The school was buzzing with conversations, opinions, and emotions. Students gathered in hallways, classrooms, and cafeterias to discuss what had happened. Some were excited about the possibility of change, while others worried that it might disrupt the school's traditions. Teachers held impromptu meetings during lunch breaks to share their thoughts, and parents called the school office nonstop, demanding updates. Principal Roger Bennett found himself overwhelmed by the pressure. He spent hours locked in his office, going over notes from the debate and consulting with the school board. Each decision he made seemed to have consequences that rippled far beyond what he had anticipated. On one hand, Richard Hayes's proposal offered a chance to modernize Lincoln Academy and make it more inclusive. On the other hand, many influential parents threatened to withdraw their children if the school changed its admissions process too drastically. It was a delicate balancing act, and Bennett wasn't sure how to navigate it. Meanwhile, Emily Carter returned to her quiet life on the farm, though her mind was anything but calm. Since speaking at the debate, she had become a symbol of hope for many students who felt excluded by schools like Lincoln Academy. Friends and classmates reached out to her constantly, sharing their own stories of rejection and frustration. Some even thanked her for having the courage to stand up and speak her truth. At first, Emily didn't know how to respond. She hadn't expected her words to resonate so deeply with others, and the attention made her feel both proud and uneasy. One afternoon, as Emily was helping her father mend a broken fence, Sarah called her from school. "You won't believe this," Sarah said excitedly. "They're talking about you everywhere. People are saying you might actually get accepted now." Emily paused, her hands resting on the wooden post. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. "There's a rumor going around that Principal Bennett is reconsidering your application because of everything Mr. Hayes said at the debate. Plus, some teachers are pushing hard for you to be admitted. They think it would show the school is serious about change." Emily's heart skipped a beat. Could it really happen? After all these weeks of disappointment, was there still a chance for her to attend Lincoln Academy? She tried to stay cautious, reminding herself not to get her hopes up too high. But deep down, she couldn't help feeling a spark of optimism. Back at Lincoln Academy, the school board convened for an emergency meeting to address the growing unrest. Richard Hayes attended via video call, his presence looming large even from afar. The discussion was intense, with members debating the pros and cons of implementing his scholarship program. Some argued that it would attract positive attention and improve the school's reputation, while others feared it would alienate longtime supporters. Principal Bennett listened carefully, weighing each argument. Finally, he spoke up. "I understand the concerns on both sides," he began, his tone measured. "But I also recognize that times are changing. If we want Lincoln Academy to remain a leader in education, we need to adapt. I propose that we accept Mr. Hayes' offer and implement the scholarship program immediately. Additionally, we should review our admissions process to ensure fairness moving forward." His statement shocked many in the room, including himself. For years, Bennett had clung to the belief that tradition was the foundation of success. Now, faced with undeniable evidence of inequality, he realized that clinging to the past was no longer an option. It was time to take a bold step forward, even if it meant risking backlash from those who disagreed. The board members voted, and to everyone's surprise, the majority agreed to move forward with the plan. News of the decision spread quickly, sending waves of excitement through the school. Students cheered in the hallwards, teachers exchanged relieved smiles, and parents who supported the change expressed their approval. Of course, not everyone was happy. Some wealthy families grumbled about the shift, accusing the school of lowering its standards. But for the first time in years, Lincoln Academy felt alive with possibility. As part of the agreement, Richard Hayes insisted that Emily Carter be formally admitted to the academy. He argued that her story exemplified the kind of talent and determination the scholarship program aimed to support. Reluctantly, Principal Bennett agreed, knowing it was the right thing to do. When Emily received the official acceptance letter in the mail, she could hardly believe her eyes. Her dream, which had once seemed impossible, was finally within reach. The news of Emily's acceptance spread like wildfire. Local newspapers wrote articles about her journey, highlighting her resilience and the role Richard Hayes had played in advocating for her. Suddenly, Emily found herself thrust into the spotlight. Reporters came to interview her, photographers snapped pictures of her working on the farm, and strangers approached her family to offer congratulations. At first, the attention was overwhelming, but Emily soon learned to embrace it. She saw it as an opportunity to inspire others, to show them that no matter where they came from, they could achieve great things if they believed in themselves. With the scholarship program officially launched, Lincoln Academy began reaching out to students from underrepresented backgrounds. Applications poured in from across the state, showcasing incredible talents and achievements. For the first time, the admissions committee focused solely on merit, disregarding factors like wealth or connections. The result was a diverse group of new students who brought fresh perspectives and energy to the school. Among these newcomers was a boy named Alex Martinez, whose family ran a small grocery store in a nearby town. There was also Mia Thompson, a girl from the city who had overcome homelessness to excel academically. Together, these students formed a tight-knit community, supporting one another as they navigated the challenges of attending such a prestigious institution. For Emily, Adjusting to life at Lincoln Academy wasn't easy. The workload was intense, and she often felt out of place among her wealthy classmates. But she refused to let self-doubt hold her back. Instead, she leaned on her friends, both old and new, for encouragement. Sarah visited her regularly, bringing care packages from home and cheering her on during tough exams. Alex and Mia became close allies, sharing their own struggles and reminding her that she wasn't alone. As the weeks turned into months, Emily began to find her footing. She excelled in her classes, earning praise from teachers for her creativity and problem-solving skills. In science club, she led a project to design affordable farming equipment using recycled materials, a nod to her roots that earned admiration from her peers. Slowly, but surely, she proved that she belonged at Lincoln Academy, not because of where she came from, but because of who she was. Richard Hayes kept a close eye on the progress of the scholarship program, visiting the school periodically to check in. During one of these visits, he pulled Emily aside after a science fair presentation. "You're doing amazing work here," he told her with a smile. "Your grandmother would be so proud." Emily blushed, touched by his words. "Thank you for believing in me," she replied softly. "I wouldn't be here without you." Richard shook his head. "Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You're the one who fought for this opportunity, and now you're inspiring others to do the same." Those words stayed with Emily long after their conversation ended. They reminded her of why she had worked so hard to get here, not just for herself, but for everyone who deserved a fair chance to succeed. She knew the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, but she was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. Little did she realize, however, that the changes at Lincoln Academy were only the beginning. Across the state and eventually the country, schools began taking notice of the scholarship program's success. Educators and policymakers started discussing ways to implement similar initiatives, hoping to break down barriers for talented students everywhere. What had started as a single act of kindness from Richard Hayes had grown into a movement, one that showed no signs of slowing down. For Emily Carter, the journey was far from over. But as she stood on the steps of Lincoln Academy, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. Against all odds, she had found her place in the world. And in doing so, she had helped pave the way for countless others to follow in her footsteps. The months following Emily Carter's acceptance into Lincoln Academy marked a period of transformation, not just for her, but for the entire school. The scholarship program Richard Hayes had introduced was beginning to bear fruit, bringing in students from diverse backgrounds who added new energy and perspectives to the campus. For the first time, Lincoln Academy felt less like an exclusive club and more like a community united by shared goals and dreams. Emily quickly became a role model among the scholarship recipients. Her determination and humility inspired others to push through their own challenges. Alex Martinez, whose family struggled to make ends meet running a small grocery store, often turned to Emily for advice on balancing academics with personal responsibilities. "You make it look so easy," he joked one day during lunch, though both knew it wasn't. Emily smiled and shrugged. "It's not about making it look easy," she replied. "It's about keeping your head down and doing what needs to be done." Mia Thompson, another scholarship recipient, found solace in Emily's friendship. Having faced homelessness earlier in her life, Mia sometimes felt out of place among her wealthy classmates. But Emily reminded her that everyone at Lincoln Academy had been chosen because they were exceptional in their own way. "We're here because we earned it," Emily told her firmly. "Don't let anyone make you forget that." Despite the growing sense of unity among the scholarship students, not everything was smooth sailing. Some of the older families, those who had sent generations of children to Lincoln Academy, remained resistant to change. They whispered complaints at parent-teacher meetings, questioning whether the new students truly belonged. A few even suggested that the scholarship program was lowering academic standards, despite clear evidence to the contrary. Principal Roger Bennett found himself walking a tightrope between these opposing forces. On one side were the traditionalists, clinging to the belief that Lincoln Academy should remain a bastion of privilege. On the other were the advocates for change, including teachers, students, and some forward-thinking parents who saw the value in creating a more inclusive environment. Bennett tried his best to mediate, but the tension was palpable. One afternoon, during a heated discussion in the faculty lounge, Ms. Harper, a veteran English teacher, stood up and addressed her colleagues. "Change is uncomfortable," she said, her voice steady but passionate. "But that doesn't mean it's wrong. Look at our classrooms now. We have students from all walks of life sharing ideas, challenging each other, and learning together. Isn't that what education is supposed to be about?" Her words resonated with many of the teachers, who had already seen the positive impact of diversity in their classrooms. Students like Emily, Alex, and Mia brought unique insights that enriched discussions and broadened perspectives. Slowly but surely, even some of the skeptics began to soften their stance. Meanwhile, Emily continued to excel in her studies. Her passion for engineering led her to join the robotics club, where she quickly became a key member of the team. Under Satyar, her leadership, the group designed a prototype for a low-cost irrigation system that could help farmers conserve water. The project caught the attention of local agricultural organizations, earning praise not only for its ingenuity, but also for its potential to benefit rural communities. Word of the project spread beyond the school, drawing media coverage and invitations to present at regional science fairs. Emily, Alex, and Mia traveled to nearby cities to showcase their work, representing Lincoln Academy with pride. Each trip reinforced their belief that they were part of something bigger than themselves, a movement toward greater inclusivity and opportunity in education. Back at home, Emily's father, John Carter, watched his daughter's journey with quiet admiration. He remembered the days when she would sit at the kitchen table late into the night, poring over textbooks by candlelight after finishing her chores. Seeing her now, standing confidently before audiences and commanding respect, filled him with pride. "You've come a long way, kiddo," he said one evening as they sat together on the porch. "I'm proud of you." Emily leaned back in her chair, gazing at the stars. "I couldn't have done it without help," she admitted. "Mr. Hayes, Sarah, my teachers, even you, Dad. Everyone believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." John chuckled softly. "That's what family does, Emily. And don't forget, you're proving something important to people like us. You're showing them that no matter where you start, you can still reach the top if you keep pushing." As the school year progressed, the ripple effects of the scholarship program extended far beyond Lincoln Academy. Other schools across the state took notice of its success and began implementing similar initiatives. Educators attended conferences to learn how to create more equitable admissions processes, while policymakers drafted legislation aimed at increasing access to quality education for underrepresented students. Richard Hayes played a pivotal role in spreading the message. He traveled extensively, speaking at events and meeting with leaders in education. During one such speech, he shared Emily's story, emphasizing the importance of giving every student a fair chance. "Talent is universal," he declared to a packed auditorium. "But opportunity is not. It's our responsibility to bridge that gap." His words struck a chord with listeners, sparking conversations about systemic inequality in education. Journalists wrote articles highlighting the achievements of scholarship students, while social media campaigns encouraged donations to support similar programs nationwide. What had started as a personal mission for Richard Hayes had grown into a national movement, one that showed no signs of slowing down. At Lincoln Academy, the changes continued to take root. The once stuffy atmosphere gave way to a vibrant, dynamic culture where students from all backgrounds felt valued and respected. Teachers reported higher levels of engagement in class, while parents noted improvements in their children's confidence and empathy. Even Principal Bennett, who had initially resisted the idea of change, began to embrace it wholeheartedly. "I'll admit, I was wrong about a lot of things," he confessed during a staff meeting near the end of the school year. "This program has taught me that excellence isn't defined by wealth or privilege. It's defined by effort, character, and the willingness to grow." I'm grateful to everyone who helped steer us in the right direction." His admission earned applause from the faculty, many of whom appreciated his honesty. Though rebuilding trust with certain families would take time, Bennett's willingness to acknowledge his mistakes signaled a hopeful shift in leadership. For Emily, the culmination of her hard work came during the annual award ceremony. As she walked onto the stage to receive the Outstanding Achievement Award, the entire auditorium erupted in cheers. Her father sat in the front row, tears streaming down his face, while Richard Hayes clapped enthusiastically from the back. When Emily reached the microphone, she paused to collect her thoughts before speaking. "This award isn't just mine," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "It belongs to my family, my friends, and everyone who believed in me when I doubted myself. It belongs to the teachers who pushed me to do better, and the classmates who inspired me to dream bigger. Most importantly, it belongs to all the students out there who are working hard every day, hoping for a chance to prove themselves. To them I say this: keep going, don't give up. Because if someone like me can stand here today, then anything is possible." Her speech brought the audience to its feet, many wiping away tears. For Emily, it was a moment of triumph, not just for herself, but for every person who had ever been told they didn't belong. She had proven that talent and determination could overcome any obstacle, and in doing so, she had opened doors for countless others. As the school year drew to a close, Emily reflected on how much had changed since the day she received her rejection letter. What had seemed like the end of her dream had instead become the beginning of something extraordinary. She had found her place at Lincoln Academy, forged lifelong friendships, and inspired others to pursue their passions. More importantly, she had helped ignite a movement that promised to reshape the future of education. Yet as she packed her books for summer break, Emily knew this was only the beginning. There were still barriers to break, stories to tell, and battles to fight. But with each step forward, she grew more confident in her ability to make a difference. After all, she had learned that change started small, with a single act of courage, and grew into something unstoppable. And Emily Carter was ready to keep moving forward one step at a time. The summer after Emily Carter's first year at Lincoln Academy was a whirlwind of activity. News of the scholarship program's success had spread far and wide, drawing attention from educators, policymakers, and even national media outlets. Emily found herself in the spotlight once again, invited to speak at conferences and community events about her journey. At first, she hesitated. She didn't see herself as a public figure, but Richard Hayes encouraged her to share her story. "You've already inspired so many people," he told her during one of their meetings. "Your voice matters, Emily. Don't be afraid to use it." With that encouragement, Emily stepped into her new role as an advocate for educational equality. She traveled with Richard to schools across the country, meeting students who faced challenges similar to hers. In small towns and big cities alike, she spoke passionately about the importance of perseverance, inclusivity, and opportunity. Her words resonated deeply, especially with young people who felt overlooked or underestimated. One particularly memorable visit took place in a rural community, not unlike her own. The school there was old and underfunded, its students struggling to access resources most took for granted. As Emily stood before them, sharing her experiences of rejection and triumph, she saw something flicker in their eyes: hope. Afterward, a girl named Lily approached her, clutching a notebook filled with sketches of inventions she dreamed of building someday. "I want to go to college and study engineering," Lily said shyly, "but everyone tells me I can't because of where I'm from." Emily knelt down to meet her eye level. "Don't listen to them," she said firmly. "You belong wherever your dreams take you. Work hard, stay focused, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. If I can do it, so can you." Lily nodded, her face lighting up with determination. That moment stayed with Emily long after they left the town. It reminded her why this work was so important. Every speech, every interaction, was a chance to plant seeds of possibility in someone else's life. Back at Lincoln Academy, preparations for the new school year were underway. The scholarship program had expanded, welcoming even more students from diverse backgrounds. Teachers reported feeling invigorated by the fresh perspectives these students brought to the classroom. Discussions grew richer, projects became more innovative, and friendships blossomed across lines that once seemed insurmountable. Principal Roger Bennett, too, had undergone a transformation. Once resistant to change, he now embraced it wholeheartedly, working tirelessly to ensure the school remained a beacon of inclusivity. He collaborated with Richard Hayes to establish partnerships with organizations dedicated to supporting underprivileged students. Together, they launched mentorship programs, internships, and workshops designed to help students succeed beyond academics. For Emily, returning to school felt like coming home. She reconnected with Alex and Mia, who had spent their summers volunteering and interning in fields related to their passions. Alex had helped his family's grocery store implement cost-saving strategies he'd learned in business classes, while Mia had worked at a local shelter, advocating for homeless youth. Their shared experiences only strengthened their bond, reminding them that they were part of something bigger than themselves. As the school year progressed, Emily threw herself into her studies and extracurricular activities. Her leadership in the robotics club earned her recognition at regional competitions, and her irrigation system prototype gained traction among agricultural companies interested in sustainable solutions. But perhaps her greatest achievement came when she organized a science fair specifically for underrepresented students from nearby schools. The event drew hundreds of participants, showcasing talents and ideas that might otherwise have gone unnoticed. During the fair, Emily noticed a familiar face in the crowd: her grandmother, Margaret Hayes. Richard had arranged for Margaret to attend, knowing how much her presence would mean to Emily. As the two embraced, tears streaming down both their faces, Margaret whispered, "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. You've done things I never could have imagined." The moment was bittersweet. Margaret's health was declining, and Emily knew time with her was precious. Still, she cherished every second, grateful for the legacy of kindness and resilience her grandmother had passed down. By spring, the impact of Lincoln Academy's changes was undeniable. Test scores rose, graduation rates improved, and alumni reported greater success in college and careers. Parents who had once opposed the scholarship program began to see its value, recognizing how diversity enriched the entire school community. Even some of the wealthiest families acknowledged that their children benefited from learning alongside peers from different walks of life. Richard Hayes continued to champion the cause, using his influence to push for systemic reform in education. His partnership with Lincoln Academy served as a model for other institutions seeking to create equitable opportunities. By the end of the year, dozens of schools had adopted similar programs, transforming the lives of thousands of students nationwide. Graduation approached. Emily reflected on how far she and Lincoln Academy had come. On the morning of the ceremony, she stood on the stage, looking out at the sea of caps and gowns. Among them were Alex, Mia, and countless others whose journeys mirrored her own. Behind them sat proud parents, teachers, and mentors, including Richard Hayes and her father, John Carter. When it was her turn to speak, Emily took a deep breath and began. 4 years ago, I stood on this stage as a nervous freshman, unsure if I belonged here. Today, I stand before you as proof that talent and determination can overcome any obstacle. This school has taught me that excellence isn't defined by wealth or privilege. It's defined by effort, character, and the courage to embrace change. She paused, scanning the audience. To my fellow graduates, remember this. Your journey doesn't end here. You carry with you the lessons you've learned and the people who've supported you along the way. Use your gifts to lift others up, just as so many have lifted us. And to the next generation of students, know this: you belong here. No matter where you come from or what challenges you face, your dreams are valid and your voices matter. Her speech brought the crowd to its feet, applause echoing through the auditorium. For Emily, it was a moment of closure and renewal, a celebration of how far she'd come and a promise to keep moving forward. After the ceremony, as confetti rained down and hugs were exchanged, Emily found Richard waiting for her near the entrance. You've exceeded all expectations. he said with a warm smile. What's next for you? Emily thought for a moment before answering. College, of course. Then maybe helping expand the scholarship program. There's still so much work to do. Richard nodded approvingly. I have no doubt you'll accomplish great things. Just remember, you're not alone. We're all counting on you to lead the way. With those words, Emily stepped into the future, ready to face whatever lay ahead. She knew challenges would arise, but she also knew she wasn't the same girl who had once doubted her place in the world. She had grown stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to make a difference. And as she walked away from Lincoln Academy, diploma in hand, she carried with her the belief that change started with courage, and that courage could spark a movement capable of transforming lives.